Welcome to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you are ready to find your inner magic, develop great habits, and a rock steady mindset to feel confident, comfortable, and fit in your body, you are in the right place. I am Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I'll be giving you weekly doses of health, fitness, and life tips sprinkled with humor and real talk. If you're ready to be consistent without the stress of perfection, magic makers, it's time to slip into your favorite pair of PJs, grab some coffee, kick back, and listen to today's show. This week's iTunes review is brought to you by ML Martel. She writes, 5 stars. Kim is more than just knowledgeable in just health and fitness. She is supportive, reassuring, and on the level. She gives it to you straight, just the way most people need it. Well, thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate that review. And you too can review Fit Girl Magic Podcast. Just go to iTunes or wherever you subscribe to this show and just leave me a 5-star review. I love them. I take them to heart. I just want to make sure that I'm bringing you the best stuff. So thank you so much for all of you who have left me a review so far. I can't wait to highlight you.
All right, Magic Makers. Today's going to be a little personal. And, my goal is always to share with you guys just, where I've been, where I'm going, and just more about how things you might be feeling, things you might be thinking, it's not just you. And so lately I've been obsessed with this Reddit forum, and it's called Am I the Asshole? And it's where people share their drama and ask strangers to give feedback, right? To judge, this is the situation. Am I the asshole for how I responded or how I acted? And it's kind of addictive because a lot of the ones that you read, you're like, oh, damn, no, you are not. And so lately I've been asking myself the same question on my fitness journey. And spoiler alert, I am. I'm totally the asshole. So let me explain. So I want to say it was probably about almost a year and a half ago, I started in my maintenance phase. And I will be brutally honest with you, I didn't really truly understand maintenance. Because for me, in my past, I was either always dieting towards something or I was building muscle, right? There was never this real, true phase where I was just holding steady. And, always being on the gas or always being on the brakes really just did a number on, 1, my mindset, but 2, also did a number on my body because my body never had an opportunity to just cruise. I was always trying to beat it into submission, either by not giving it enough food or beating it into submission, being like, why aren't you growing muscle just because I walked past the weight rack? And so I was, this is probably, like I said, about 18 months ago. And I was kind of I felt like I was in this crossroads. I needed to do something different because, like they always say, if I do the same things, I'll always get the same results, right? Like you're a lumpet, doubling down didn't work. Letting my foot off the gas didn't work. So I had to get clear about what it was that I wanted. And then I had to get curious, right? And curiosity right now has become one of my favorite words. And I challenge all of you to kind of get curious and ask yourself the hard question, right? You don't have to call yourself an asshole, but ask yourself the hard question. Is what I'm doing right now leading me to where I want to go? Am I clear about where it is that I want to go? Because we're all muddied, I want to lose the weight. Well, that's really not why I started this journey. My clarity was I needed to change my body composition because what I was doing wasn't working. And it was was it truly a hormonal thing? Was it some type of liver detox thing? Or was it truly a caloric thing? And so that was where I kind of approached, something clearly is going on, but I need to unpack like what is the pathway that's having a problem.
Hey, Magic Makers, real quick before we dive in, can we talk about your metabolism for a second? If you feel like your body has been giving you the finger lately, you are not crazy and you definitely are not broken. You might have a metabolism that is tired AF. I created a fun quiz to help you figure out exactly what's going on with your metabolism and what the heck to do about it. You know, it could be, are you eating too little? Overtraining? Maybe doing the right things and still feeling stuck? This quiz will call it out. It only takes a few minutes and you will get a custom result that is spooky spot on. So if you're ready to stop throwing spaghetti against the wall and finally figure out how to eat, train, and feel good again, go take the quiz like right frickin' now. Link is in the show notes. Let's figure out how your metabolism is holding you back and how to get out of diet jail. So back to the show.
And so curiosity is my favorite word because many of us, we haven't gotten curious about this. We've become so obsessed with the outcome. Why isn't that damn scale moving? Why is the button on my jeans digging into my belly button? Why do I look in the mirror and I hate what I see? Why can't I stick with the diet? Why can't I be consistent with my workouts? Why? And we forgot to take a step back and say, okay, hey, what if there was a completely different way to do this? Even if that way scared the bejesus out of me, is there a different way? So I had been following this woman for a while and, you know, we hopped on a call and I just got curious, right? So I hired her because I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I have absolutely nothing to lose because here's the thing. Many of you listening to me, you guys know a lot. You absolutely know a lot. You know, many of the women that I work with, you know a lot. But what we don't know is what we don't know, right? You guys know how to diet. And I knew all the things. But, you know, the best example is that you don't ever see a dentist cleaning their own teeth. You don't see a surgeon taking out their own appendix. We always need someone to look over the shoulder because it's always going to be something that they point out that you're like, whoa, didn't see that, or didn't think that was an issue, right? So I hired her because like I was sick of trying to be my own dentist. So the first year she's like, we're just going to maintain. We're not going to try to do anything, but like, let's see if we can just like stabilize your food, stabilize your workouts, stabilize your calories. And for the most part, you know, workouts are pretty easy, but it was the food piece that was that am I the asshole? Okay. So we just worked on maintenance, like no aggressive cuts, no building, just we're going to take our weight and we're just going to like see what we can to maintain it. And the goal here, and I'll attach the podcast that I talked about where I did a whole podcast about the maintenance process, but it's just like, we were going to just see what my weight was and then see how many calories we could add to my food that would keep my weight from going up dramatically. So I'm like, all right, let's go. And you know what happened? I put on 7 pounds. Now, for those of you guys who just passed out, pick yourself up. I know, right? You had this mini panic attack. So did I. I was working my ass off. I was being consistent. I was tracking, and I was tracking the first time I had tracked in years. I was doing all the quote unquote right things, but I was putting on weight, but it felt like by the minute. And I was also someone who I may have weighed myself once a month, right? I was not like, I broke myself of that scale. You know, when you do fitness competitions, it's less about the scale. It's more about what does your body look like? So I really broke free of the scale. And then so for me, getting on the scale was a real mindfuck. It was such that for me. And it was a challenge because I knew that I was looking for a body composition change, but the scale was just literally like punching me in the face. And so I totally understand for those of you guys who have that scale challenge. And one of the ways that we worked on that was I used an app called Happy Scale. Unfortunately, it's only Apple, they keep saying they're going to come up with an Android one, but maybe by the time you're listening to this, they have come up with one, but you never know. You never know. So I was like, okay. So then my coach started asking me some hard questions that really made me look at what I was doing, right? This was like 3 months in. And so it's like, I always tell people, it's like the first 30 days, you're just settling in, like you're just kind of finding your rhythm. And then in the next 60, we're like, okay, let's see what's truly happening here. And then by 90 days, if things still haven't really changed, you're like, okay, that like what's going on? And for so many of you, like in the first 30, you're going to panic. I've had clients who be like, I just only want to work with you for 30 days. And I was like, I'm not for you. Because most of the women who come to me, they've been doing this for decades. And in the first 30 days, you are going to want to keep doing what you're doing, or you want to go harder. And I'm going to be like, I just want to see what you do. And I want to make one tweak and see how that does. Because I know that I have to treat this like an experiment. If we were scientists, they don't, create cures by saying, we're going to throw everything at it. They throw one thing and they see what happens. Then they're like, okay, that's what happened when we put in this one variable. Now let's add in a second variable. See what happens when variable 1 and variable 2. All right, this is what we know. Okay, let's see if we put variable 1, 2, and 3 together. All right, let's take out one variable and see what happens. And so it's like, it's a systematic, strategic approach. And that's what I have found that works the absolute best. So my coach asked me these hard questions, and it really made me look at what I was doing. And this is where am I the asshole moment comes in. Because when we really dug in, like before she was just kind of looking at my caloric, like top line caloric level, not really like lifting up the hood and getting into the works. But what I really looked at was what I was doing. And I mean, really looked at it. And I had to admit some uncomfortable truth. So asshole move number 1. I was basically living off of protein powders and bars. Like 40% of my protein was coming from supplementation, right? Because they were convenient. They're convenient. A few days a week, I still teach a few classes. So it's convenient for me to have a bar. It's convenient for me to drink a shake. Then, so my coach was like, can we start incorporating some more actual knife and fork proteins there? And here's the thing, right? So if I don't want anyone to be like, oh my God, I got to throw it all my protein powder. I am not saying that, right? I still drink a shake. I'm drinking a shake right now while I record this. But instead of having like 2 to 3 shakes a day, my body didn't like that. It wasn't working for me. So again, experimentation. So my body wasn't working for me. I was also having, about 2 shakes a day and some type of protein bar. So that's 3, 2 meals and a snack that I was having that was more supplement based. Again, you have to look at your life, your situation. And so so what I did, I pulled out that protein bar and I replaced it. And instead I basically put cottage cheese in an apple. Like that's what I replaced it with. I replaced it with sliced turkey and an apple, right? So that's how I was like, it was convenient. I could easily throw it in my mouth and continue on with my day. Asshole move number 2. I kept in that like calorie level. And it was just because it was what I knew. It's how I ate. And this is what I ate. This is what I ate. This is what I ate. And so I wasn't doing it to like struggle. I wasn't doing it because it was my habitual way of eating. And so what we had to do was just like, so we need to start looking at like what you're eating. And I was eating clean. I was eating whole foods, but I was eating roughly between 1,100 and 1,400 calories. And it just like, my body just was like, it couldn't really sustain on the activity that I was giving it. So I was, if I look back, I was hungry. In the morning, I woke up, I was hungry, but I didn't eat. So then, the first step was, all right, Kim, can we start making sure that before you go to the gym, because I work out first thing in the morning, and before you go to the gym, what can we add to your food? And, for many to be like, oh my God, I can't eat before I go to the gym. I was that person too. But it started simple as like, I got those squeezable applesauce packets. And I was like, all right, I can, literally put this in my mouth on the way to the gym. And I tolerated it, right? I was able to lift, I was able to do cardio, and I didn't feel nauseous at all. So I added that. I started making sure that in the morning, when I did have my shake, I added in vegetables to my shake. So it was adding in spinach, or added in shredded carrots, or added in rice cauliflower. Now, all of you guys are like, carrots are sweet. They don't really taste like anything. Rice cauliflower tastes like absolutely nothing. Many of you are used to putting in spinach. Hell, I had a client who used to put kale in. I mean, I think that tastes a little bit more bitter than spinach. Spinach, rice cauliflower, or carrot. Carrots have like a sweet taste to it, so it doesn't really muck around with the flavor too much. So I started feeding those vegetables, adding those vegetables in, right? But it was like, okay, let's see what I can do to kind of start stuffing myself with these like nutritionally denser foods versus, before I was just pretty much like protein powder and maybe like a couple of strawberries for flavor. So it was kind of like adding in those little things along the way. So it wasn't this like, can I be strict? It was just more like looking at like, what were you doing? Because nothing I was doing was horrible. It was just like, how do we just kind of like unpack this piece? And so, again, I put in the 7 pounds. And of course, I was like seriously, like, come on, like, work with me here. Like, I'm so pissed. Like, I'm doing everything you asked me. And the weight keeps going up and up and up. And so, she was like, I want you to ride this out, because I think it's just the fact that your body's not used to you putting in, 200 to 300 more calories, which is in the grand scheme of things, nothing. Right. So she was like, all right, Kim, let's just kind of get you out of your head here. And we shifted to doing some more like anti-inflammatory stuff. So, because for me, I felt like I was just holding on to a lot of water and toxins. And so we upped my fiber. We, like I said, talked about adding in more, knife and fork based proteins just to see if we can get stuff moving. And so, yeah, again, the weight still was kind of like, going up and down like a Richter scale. But she was like, ride it out. And I was like, okay, I was like, I don't really know where I summoned all of this courage to keep going, but I did. Right. Because I was like, I don't know who the bleep I was, but I actually stayed the course. And it was just pure blind faith and trust in her, and knowing that if I went back to what I was doing, nothing would change. Right. That was really where it was. Like, if I look back to where I came from, that wasn't a place that was serving me. That wasn't a place that I was getting the results that I wanted. So I was like, I gotta like go. So, I look at it like, moving to a new city or town or state where it's like, it's like, I can't stay here, but I don't know what the new place is going to be. But for me, I'm like, it has to be better than where I am right now. Because, I remember a former coach of mine told me, she's like, you could always try this and you can always go back. You could always go back to what you're doing. And what I was doing was just like, a native language for me. I had been doing it for so long. So why I kept going is that I'm going to tell you right now, I am a tough client. I'm a tough client because I know a lot of shit, right? So it's like, if you're going to coach me around nutrition and fitness, you better know your shit. You just can't be like winging stuff. Like, you have to know your shit, because I am going to call you out on it. I'm going to ask you the hard questions. I'm going to ask you the tough questions, and I want you to fucking know. And if you don't know, I want you to be like, I don't know, but have you seen this before? Right? So we, she put up with my shit. I push back. And she pushes back just as hard. I'm like, okay, I'm leaning in, right? Because if I can like push over, like I can steamroll you, then I'm like, you have no chance. So now she talks to me like we're partners. She's like, all right, well, how do you want to approach the situation? And I'm like, I'm thinking this. And she's like, yeah, I like that too. Or she'll like, you're not going to be happy about this, but I'm thinking blah. And so it's like, we know how to like go back and forth. We've been working together now for almost 2 years. And so like, we're partners, right? And this is how I work with my clients, because it's like, I know you know your body better than me. And I know a lot of shit. And I'm like, I also know that you can only do what you can do. And I know that I have to ask you what season of life you're in, right? If you're in that season where you're carting kids here, there, and everywhere, or you're in a season where your work is just like super busy, I'm not going to ask you to give me something that you can't give. Right. So that's where, that give and take goes. Because so many of you guys are just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But I'm like, if you're in a season that you're, like I said, super busy, some of the stuff is going to fall off by the wayside. And it's never going to be because of the season. It's going to be about you. And I never want you to feel that it's you. It's that the system that you're trying to follow just isn't working for you in that season of your life. So we have to work with the rhythm of life versus always trying to, be the salmon jumping up the stream. So we work in this anti-inflammatory place. And, so I went full paleo for 6 months, no grain, no dairy, all the things. Body composition improved a bit, but not much else changed. So fast forward, it was like a good way to kind of eliminate like any of the truly inflammatory things. Was that truly what was happening? Because then you can kind of say, all right, let's get some lab work done. And like, let's see how you are detoxing. Are you, is it truly a liver thing? Is it a cortisol thing? Is it an adrenal thing? Right. So that now that we've kind of eliminated any possible food, like now we can get into the labs, right? Where so many of us just want to jump to be like, it's my hormones. I took my parasites, just because I saw something on the TikTok. So I'm, at this point, I still wasn't tracking anything other than my protein. It was just like, I just want you to track just protein, just making sure you're getting enough protein. And we also started adding in some beans. So I was adding in at least, it started with 2 tablespoons of any kind of bean. And I was literally adding beans into my shake. Every meal, I was adding at least 2 tablespoons. Now I'm up to 3 tablespoons of beans with pretty much breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then, kind of again, more experiments. Like what would happen if I up my fiber? Would that help me kind of start to really detox my body, through food? And then we started the challenge of, in July, it was like, can I do 10,000 steps and be consistent with those 10,000 steps? Because I could do anywhere from 20,000 steps to 3,000 steps, right? Like, and I didn't realize how little movement I got after COVID. COVID showed me that when I was doing in-person personal training and in-person teaching, I was literally like somewhere between 10 and 30,000 steps every single day. And I realized how dramatic my steps would go down when I wasn't, teaching or training. I wasn't commuting into Boston. So, we consistently went to like, can we hit 10,000 steps? And I did that for all of the month of July. And so instead of hitting, calorie targets, it was more about the quality of food. It's like, how many knife and fork meals could I have and sprinkle in the protein? And, I have a challenge with breakfast. Sometimes I just don't feel like breakfast. Like I could be at the biggest buffet on the planet and nothing would interest me. So right now I'm having protein shakes, but there's sometimes I'm like, protein shakes don't do it for me anymore. And I'll switch to something else. But as we've kind of started, shifting these things, so I started being consistent with my protein, having anywhere from 100 to 150 grams of protein with every single meal, getting in those 2 to 3 tablespoons of beans with every single meal, being like consistent with like my bedtime, which is pretty much my religion, is my bedtime. And then we just started adding in some just like de-stressing time. And my bedtime is my de-stress time. My bedtime is my Kim time, my pre-workout morning, I have a pre-morning like Kim time. And so surprise, surprise, like these little small shifts, right? Nothing dramatic. The weight started to come down. Was it like 1 to 2 pounds a week? No. Look, let's just stop believing that myth. it was literally like, it would be a quarter pound, it would be a half a pound, right? Like, but it was in a steady, like stable state. And it was very gradual. And, I'm looking back and it was probably like, like I said, we did like little variables over the time. Like, we're like, let's start adding in more calories and see how that works. But I'm still eating the higher calories, but I just tweaked around the types of food that I was bringing into my system. And so now for me, I'm like, you know what? My body needed way more knife and fork protein. It just absolutely needed it. And it needed the fiber. It needed the additional, could it be the beans? Could it be that I was, adding in those extra fibrous vegetables to my shake, right? But like my body absolutely like loved it. My body loves the protein and loves the fiber. And so same thing for you. Got to ask yourself again with these little small increments, what is it that my body is craving? So now my body is liking the 10,000 steps. It's liking the extra fiber, and it's liking the, hard deck of like 100 grams or more of protein. And so here's the kicker, right? So I got a DEXA scan. This is probably back in July of 2024. I got a DEXA scan. Then I got a DEXA scan earlier this month, and I lost 6 pounds of body fat while maintaining all of my muscle. I didn't lose 1 pound of muscle. And the woman who's the DEXA scan technician, she's like, this is interesting. No one ever doesn't lose muscle mass. Like especially a woman of my age in that golden-ish era. We don't lose weight. Like we don't especially a woman over 35. You're losing anywhere from like 1 to 3% of muscle mass over the course of 10 years. Like every 10 years, we're just like kind of slowly eroding, if you will. But she's like, that's very interesting. So like whatever you're doing is keeping your muscle where you are, but you're losing body fat. And if I look at the scale weight from a year ago to now, I'm down 7.5 pounds. Now, for some of you, like, oh my God, 7.5 pounds in a year? Dude, I'm going to fucking take it, right? Because it's gradual, it's even, and I don't feel like this is something that I have to like fight for, right? So it's for the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm dieting per se. I feel like this is a good pace that I'm at, that I don't feel like I'm missing out on my life. I can still go out and have a date night with my husband. I can still go out and have a girls' night with my husband. I can still travel and not feel like I got to pack a whole cooler full of food in order to go away for the weekend or go away for the night. And I'm still probably eating, more calories than I thought, that I was maintaining at like 1,400 calories. So right now, as I kind of every week when I check in with my coach, she's kind of like, you know what, Kim, I really wish you would, see if we can keep my calories up a little bit more than where I am. But yeah, it's right now my body feels good. I feel like I have energy. I feel like I'm sleeping really well. I feel like my lifts are in really good. And I feel like my body's finally like in a place where it's like, we're safe now. We can like let go some of this food. So yeah, I was the asshole, right? I was the asshole to my body for a really long time because I kept blaming it for doing something not fast enough. I kept blaming it for not being what I wanted it to be. My mind kept pushing. And my body was kind of like, shut the fuck up. But I was like, the mind always is trying to like bully your body, and your body is always trying to be like, save me. So I finally fell into that. And I learned that sometimes acknowledging being the asshole is the first step to no longer being the asshole, to start realizing that you were, and start listening to and reviewing what is it that I'm actually eating. Because I will say, most of the women who I work with, they're not coming to me and they're saying, I had Taco Bell and then I had McDonald's and then I had pizza and beer and then I had wings. Like, that's not what I see, right? Most of you guys are living in this little square of like 1,200 calories and kind of like me, like you have a lot of protein-ish foods. Or you have a lot of powdery, like I had some AG1 and that's my greens, right? So it's like really looking at truly giving your body some like food-based nutrients. And here's the thing. I am never going to kick a supplement. They are exactly what they are. They help. But if I'm living off of it versus helping me it to support, and I know there's some people out there like, our soil is nutritionally bankrupt, blah, blah, blah. I feel that. I believe that wholeheartedly, but I also believe that there are still some things that we can pull out of a true vegetable, a true piece of protein that we just can't get from a supplement. So I think there's a nice hybrid, if you will, of the knife and fork versus the supplementation. And if you're in a similar spot, stuck in the same patterns, maybe it's get curious, right? Get curious and ask yourself the hard questions that I did. And if you want someone to ask you the hard questions, you got me. I have no problem. I had to put the mirror up to my face and own the shit. And so, I'm here for you. And, maybe sure, maintenance isn't the boring middle ground that I thought it was. And yeah, we're not going to dive right into maintenance and you're not going to nail maintenance in a week. It's going to be a process. And, maybe this is exactly what your body's been asking for all along, right? Maybe your body's just like, girl, I'm sick of being on quote unquote a diet. And if you realize you've been the asshole to your body too, welcome. We meet on Wednesdays. We're all working on it, right? And so, maybe it's like, you have to just ask a little bit harder questions of yourself. And, we get curious about something today. Maybe you get curious about the steps or the drinking of the water or setting a bedtime or, having more downtime, because I see you type A folks out there and you're writing this all down. And seriously, I'm just asking you pick one, like do an experiment and see if you can do that until you nail it. And it ain't going to be in the day. It ain't going to be a week. But just trust it. It feels amazing when you hit that one thing and you're like, okay, if I can hit this one thing, then what's next? My one thing I started doing last year, I challenged myself in the month of October, 15 minutes every day I was going to go for a walk. 15 minutes. That was it. And I did that through the winter and I live in New England. And then it wasn't until July that I was like, maybe it's time to challenge myself. And I went to 10,000, truly was like, my hard deck is 10,000 steps. So I want you to just give something a try. And if this resonates with you and you want to take a deeper dive into your own maintenance journey, I have a quiz that'll help you figure out where you are. And do me a favor, just check the show notes for that link. And if anything resonated with you here, do me a favor, can you just screenshot it and then just throw me a shout out on your story and just let me know what that aha moment was. All right, Magic Makers, I will talk to you next week. Enjoy your week.
Thank you for listening to the Fit Girl Magic podcast. If you've made it this far, yay. I'm thinking you enjoyed the show. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram. You can find me at Kim Jefferson Coach. In order for me to keep sharing this message, do me a favor and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss an episode. New episodes are available every Wednesday. The Fit Girl Magic podcast is intended to provide you with tips, tools, and strategies that will help you make better decisions about your health. I really appreciate your feedback and your support. Thank you so much.